Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of eDiscovery After Hours. My guest today is Irasema Jeffers of On Call eDiscovery. She is an absolute treasure of a personality. In this episode, we talked about her time in the Marine Corps, starting a business, parenthood. I mean, you name it. It was just an awesome, energetic conversation. Went a little bit beyond the 20 to 25 minutes that we try to keep it in, but we had a good time. I really hope you enjoy it. Today's sponsor is Proteus Discovery Group. For information governance plans, for eDiscovery consulting, or for document review, check out www.proteusdiscovery.com. Thanks.
Quick time!
You don't know how to drink, your whole generation.
Drinks on the house.
Yes, sir.
No, wait a second. Drinks are 50% off.
Right.
No, wait a second. Double the price of everything.
And I work only 16 hours a day.
A union man only works 8 hours a day.
I belong to 2 unions.
And now, eDiscovery After Hours with your host, Ryan Short.
All right, Irasema Jeffers, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm good, man. It's Friday. It's a beautiful day in Idaho. Marmots are out finally, so, we're happy.
So 2 questions. First, what are we drinking?
Gin and tonic. Bombay Sapphire is the choice, no lime.
That's what I just picked up at the corner store 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm still jealous that you'd have that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? A real big urban city slicker here in Indianapolis, Indiana. If there's ever like what people like, where can I get an authentic urban like vibe? It's like downtown Indy, obviously. So that was the first question. Second question, what is a marmot? You have to explain this to those who are less well-versed in Semitisms than I am.
I mean, it's a new Semitism because I didn't know what a marmot was really until I moved up here. So I moved to Idaho like 5 years ago, and we were grateful, lucky, all those words, to live in a property that's got like the National Geographic happening. So a marmot to me is kind of like a smaller beaver. They burrow inside. They've got yellow bellies, so they call them yellow belly marmots or rock chucks here. But they're plentiful in our property. So like they kind of come up, kind of like the meerkats. So they're like chirp, 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 chirp. And they drive my dog crazy. But it's also kind of cool because they bring other things like the hawks and the bald eagles because they like the little babies for lunch. So there you go. Yeah.
First, that's kind of sad, but also kind of awesome.
Circle of life, man. Circle of life.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So, okay. All right, good. I dig that. So we talked off camera, right? This is a show not about the people of eDiscovery, but the work of eDiscovery. So you, correct me if I'm wrong, you've never worked at an eDiscovery service provider.
True statement.
Okay, and you've never worked at an eDiscovery software provider.
True statement.
And you've never worked at a law firm.
That is true.
So who the hell do you think you are?
I know, I'm the great pretender. No, man, I didn't know about this industry till like 8 years ago. I kind of fell into it accidentally when my husband was like, hey, girl, I'm going to go to law school, or not law school, but med school. Like, oh, all right. I mean, we're old, but dope, whatever. So I kind of had to figure out how to have a job that could move a little bit between what he was doing at school and residency. So I did this thing called start a company, and a lot of my customers, my first one was a boutique marketing firm. And it just happened to be a bunch of eDiscovery and legal tech companies. And I feel like I'm so dating myself, which is crazy. I am a Gen Xer, so I think that's what I do.
Own it, embrace it. Yeah, be you.
Yeah, I know, embrace it. Gen Xers are kind of known for being a little cynical, so I probably shouldn't embrace that part. Anyway.
I had this debate the other day. So I was born, sorry, I just totally interrupted your story, but we'll get back to it. Probably. Knowing us, we may not.
Dude, I'm Latina. I can have 5 conversations at one time and always bring it back home. We're good.
I'm Irish, so I'll always just be confused, but glad that we're having a drink. So, what was I going to ask you? I don't even remember.
Maybe you should take another drink, man.
Yeah, rough cut. Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah. All right. So you started a company. You're working with these e-discovery folks, right? Oh. Your husband went back, you said, to school to go to med school. What were each of you doing prior to that?
Probably I'll take it back too. So both of us met in the Marine Corps. So we were both Marine Corps officers.
Semper Fi.
Semper Fi. Or Fidelis, if you would like to do the whole piece.
Yeah.
So both of us were in the Marine Corps. We both had done active duty and then gotten out. So we didn't meet in the first round. So I kind of joke with him and with others that the Marine Corps forgot to issue me a husband the first time around. So back in 2006, the war's still going on really, but things were heating back up. So they activated a bunch of units. We both were attached to a reserve unit in Alameda, California. He was an infantry guy. I was just a lady looking for love. So that's where I met him. So yeah, that's where we met. And then, so after we came back from that, he had been going to, he was going to go back to school to be an aerospace engineer. I was working at a company, little known at that time that it would become a monstrosity. It was named Amazon, and it's fun.
And you join it, and you're like, "What are the prospects that this company stands around?" Like, come on.
Dude, like when I was there, it was like, I think the term was books, music video, something else. And I met Bezos like early on, which was cool, and I remember when we did like something, like we bought a company that made like DVDs, that burned DVDs for like, that you would put music on, remember that back in the day?
Yeah.
And I remember asking him like, dude, like really? He's like, yeah, this is going to be great. So it's kind of funny to know where it ended up being, but it was as big and dominant as it was today. So that's why I was like, I'm out.
When you met him, did he have hair but no muscles? Because now he's the opposite way. Now he's no hair but
he's
big
pretty
muscles.
Jacked.
He's
right?
jacked. He looks good. He looks really good. I mean, would you rather look as fit as him or have his bank account?
Bank account.
Yeah, for sure. Bank account. Yeah.
Easily. He was super nice. I mean, there's a couple, like we were really lucky at the warehouse. He used to come and that's where I started warehousing.
It looks like you're still in a warehouse. For those who are watching on YouTube.
Sure. Maybe that's just like, I can't get away from it. It's, yeah. Well, anyway. Yeah. That's where I was working. And he decided, which is totally fine, right? He wanted to be a doctor and, as a family support that. So I left Amazon, and which to me ended up being a good thing. I think, that I learned a lot in my first company. So I started a company and had to learn. I still think it was better than going back to school. I still say that, I learned a lot. That's where I figured out these companies like e-discovery, legal tech. But like, it was back in the day when like, I was like, hey, we need to be doing digital marketing like that. I was a digital native when I came out of the Marine Corps, because that's what Amazon was. Yeah. And that was great for me, like to come in and apply everything I had to do it. But like, I got met with a lot of resistance, kind of like I still do, but back then it was digital. What's this social media stuff? That's never going to work. And it's just kind of nice to be not the forefront, but the beginning of that conversation and just kind of challenge it. We make a joke here, challenge accepted. So it was kind of fun.
So what prompted you to join the Marine Corps in the first place?
That might be like a longer answer. You might need to rough cut this out for sure. Ready for that one. I'm a second generation American. So in my family, this country means a lot. And my dad he's the most positive person I know, and is like, anything you do, you give back. But we were also poor. And so I knew I needed to leave, where I grew up and explore the world and not sit at a desk job, which clearly I made it back to somehow.
You said earlier it's a circle of life, so
it is. It came back. But yeah, that was how I got to college. That's how I got to leave. I grew up in Mesa, Arizona. So for me, it was just like a really good opportunity to kind of give back, because that's, this country continues to give back to us, but also just do something different. And back then, I was 44. So I was 17 when I finally left to college, but there weren't a lot of opportunities for I will say very strong, aggressive women to do cool stuff. And I grew up with 4 brothers too. So it's like my parents didn't know it, but they kind of bred me to become a Marine. So that's why I went to college. I went to Marquette, which is like totally unheard of. I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. No one goes to Marquette University, freezes their butt off. But yeah.
So this is, we've got people across the globe listening to these. Marquette is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And people still won't know what that means. It's an hour north of Chicago. So there you go.
That's right. That's how where I live now too. I keep kind of circle of life again. Yeah. I live in a tiny town called Preston, which is 2 hours north of Salt Lake City. So that's kind of.
I won a wager off of you for Preston, Idaho. The very
Son
first
of a
time we ever
bitch,
spoke. Yeah. And my wife was very grateful. So I worked in transportation for 8.5 years, and you said I'm in a tiny town in Idaho. I bet you don't know where it is. I said, I bet you're wrong. And you said Preston, Idaho. And I can't remember. I gave like the nearest like interstate or state road or something, because I know where every tiny town is. And you're like, oh no, I owe you some grounds and hounds. So here's a plug. They're not paying us to do this, but maybe we'll each get a free bag now. I don't know.
Ooh, this is how we start it, right? This is how
the
we
medium roast is on point. It's really well done.
Good. I love that company. Grounds and Hounds is you like everybody, right? We're now in a pandemic, there's no more events. So like we were just thinking of other swag to give that wasn't a mask, that was another coffee cup. And we kind of went through that list. We went coffee cup. I'm like, dude, we need something to fill coffee cups. So Grounds and Hounds is kind of what we give away for our swag. And it's a good company. I'm glad you liked it. We get a monthly order from it at the house. Yeah.
So I loved it. And I wondered, when I'm e-discovery famous, when this podcast is a worldwide phenomenon, which will probably happen 48 hours after this episode drops. Let's be honest.
Totally.
I've started thinking about like, what can I do for guests, and I was like, ooh, like an etched, tumbler with our logo. And then I was like, everybody has, the stuff, like, but then, I love the coffee. Like you need something to put in the stuff. That was great.
Yeah. I just got some swag yesterday, which I hadn't for a while, but cause I'm not, e-discovery famous. I'm just kind of like 10 people famous.
Yeah.
But, like they gave me like this cool, like tote bag. And then they gave me like a bunch of other stuff in it, but it's kind of the same thing. I can't really use it because I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. So I feel like coffee is the great connector anyway. Because what do you do normally, when you can see people? Is you go get a cup of coffee. Yeah, and when I can't see people, and I was working from my master bedroom closet on a card table, then I put Kahlua in the coffee. And then, Why were you in the closet? Like that's.
Yeah, my mother-in-law wondered that. We live in a house built in the 60s. And so evidently home builders in 1963 weren't thinking like, I bet one day there's going to be a pandemic and people will work from home using the internet. So anyway, I've got 3 kids under 5. And if I was in the spare bedroom, then I'm right next to where they're trying to nap and I'm making too much noise.
Oh,
and if I work from the kitchen table, then they're playing and screaming and they're making too much noise. So I got a folding card table and I put it in the master bedroom closet, and it ended up kind of being great for audio quality because like all the clothes just acted as like, the dampener, Yeah. So it was maybe I'll have to move the production studio in there.
Maybe sometime we'll go back to offices. I don't know. I think that's gotta be like a shock for just anybody, not just in our industry, but like, the office is where people collaborated. It's where you brought in clients, customers, and you kind of, I don't know, you kind of had some swagger when you moved up to like the standing desk, and.
So I'm in an office now. We've been in it since June. We basically closed it down for like 3 months, but there's only like 10 to 12 of us here and everybody has a private office. They can shut a door. So, and a lot of us have young kids. So it was very much like a communal, we have to go hide from our kids kind of thing. So it's nice. It works. Yeah. I
have 1 kid. I think if I had more than 1, I grew up with 5. So it's a lot, man, more than 1. You're going to have another, can I say that? Can I ask that?
Yeah.
You're gonna have another one, right?
Spoiler alert, there's another Baby Short number 4 is on the way.
Baby Short is number 4, and what is Baby Short? Do we know yet?
We probably won't know until September 7th or whenever said child decides to arrive. We haven't found out. We've always been surprised.
No way.
Yeah. No, I painted the nursery yellow. When we bought the house, I was like, I'm painting this room once. It's going to be yellow, and I'm never painting it until it becomes a guest room. And so
It'll work for a guest room too, though.
yeah, it's kind of like Winnie the Pooh, like cartoony yellow, not like the color of his belly or like the color of like stripes in the road. It's like a pastel yellow, I guess. Maybe it could work. I don't know. I have to dress it up a little bit.
I feel like yellow is the new blue. I don't know. I'm just making that up. I don't know colors.
I don't know. Maybe we just started a new hashtag.
I used to go, my favorite part and that I miss about traveling, like, is like actually seeing different offices. Like I used to like that a lot, actually, just to, I don't know, I think it's kind of cool. It's kind of like I like seeing other houses just to see what I would want to steal.
Yeah. I think that places form people, and so I'm a big history buff, and if you study people who study like anthropology or whatever, like the geography in which a civilization resides helps to form the people there. Yeah. And so I always loved, like, when I was in undergrad and somebody would be like, yeah, I got to get out of here for a weekend, get a change of scenery. Like, it was always cool to like see, like, do a weekend like where your buddy from college like grew up and you feel like you get to know them a little more, right? Like when you are, because for most people, we spend more time at work than we do with our families. And so when you see like where they work and where they expend their creative energies and where the predominance of their interactions takes place, it always feels like there's another element like, oh, I know this person a lot better now. And I just miss, well, I never thought I'd miss airports and hotels like I do, but I just miss the unplanned interactions, right? Yeah. And the long lunches, right? Where it's like you book an hour, but then at the end of it, it's like you have a hard stop. Like, no, let's get another drink.
No, let's keep going. Yeah.
And now we're doing that this way. So I have faith that we'll get back to it. I hope and pray we get back to it.
I think there's always silver linings. And part of it is, I think, like the experiences like you're talking about is like, I have these silver linings because, I mean, I've seen the worst of humanity. We spent a year in Iraq, and I tell that to my son now. And before, probably the last 3 years, I didn't talk a lot about it. I still don't, but what I do talk about is just in this last year, like, it is just reminding me to tell people is like, there are worse things to go through, and no one is actually shooting at us. Great. So let's work from there. And in the silver linings of this year, like we launched a company 3 years ago. And I say we've got two partners. And then this year I became the majority owner, and I went, holy crap, 2020. And I was like, all right, well, here we go. Yeah. And then the pandemic hit, and we launched right before that. So we're like, we're going to launch this thing during legal week. It's going to be great. Got momentum. And then, right, that just was like crash. But, in a way, I think it made us stronger. I mean, no one starts a business and goes, wee. I mean, it's hard. You're bootstrapping and then you're like, let's do a pandemic in the middle of it. Even better, right? Yeah. But it made us able to travel to, once everyone kind of figured out how to do it, because we're remote anyway, but you still had to go to events, still, meet people. So you just kind of figured out how to reach out. And for somebody like me, that's super hard. I am ridiculously awkward. I am constantly saying the wrong thing, but in the last year I've just been I'm embracing it. I'm going to be open about it. And just, how we met, right? On LinkedIn. I'm like, oh, this person sounds cool. Dope. Let's just start a conversation. So it's
Little did you know that person is not cool.
No way. We've talked about this. You're kind of my brother from another mother in Indiana. I didn't know that existed, but now I do. So it's all good. Yeah. But that wouldn't have happened. You and I wouldn't have met. I can name probably 10 other people online that just are kind of like that, and I'm grateful for, because I think it's helped me. It's helped the small business kind of world and community, because we're talking about this during the end of the year, which we're already in March for 2021. What the hell?
Oh, it's crazy. I know. By the time this episode drops, it'll probably be May, give or take. So just think about that, right? We're recording this now. By the time it drops, the year's almost half gone. I mean,
and I still feel like we're stuck in 2020. I don't know if that's
I think everybody feels that way. Right? Okay. This is that bad sequel that nobody asked for, right? It's like Anchorman 2. It's, come on, just one was enough.
Well, I mean, don't know. Might have, okay, maybe one. But the Trident came out. Oh no, Trident came out in one. Okay, you're probably right.
Yeah.
One was enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2020 still going on.
So you said something that I loved. And maybe I'm paraphrasing. Maybe I just made it up. Maybe you didn't say it, but I'm going to credit to you anyway, right? How
just how like on that I said that.
Yeah.
Like feel right.
Yeah. Well, totally. We have professional overdubbers in multiple languages.
I would like to be an English old lady, please.
I will give you that impression when we've stopped recording, so nobody else can judge me except for you. Something about how you saw the best of humanity last year, right? And there's that juxtaposition of how it takes the worst of humanity to bring out the best of humanity, right? And you think about that, like for most people, in the working kind of in their careers right now, that moment was 9/11, right? Yeah. A really brutal, horrible, sad, and shocking moment brought out just acts of heroism and beauty and bravery. To what extent, how am I trying? I want to phrase this in a way that I'm respectful of your experience, but you've got what a lot of people would consider a stressful situation, being an entrepreneur, right? And you're responsible for obviously your own livelihood and contributing to the well-being of your family, but also to your employees and to your investors. And that's a really high wire act, right? And we're in the same boat here with some of the things that we're doing, but I imagine it pales in comparison to what you saw in Iraq. So I guess, how has that informed your approach to entrepreneurship, where you truly saw the worst on a battlefield and it brought out the best in you and your fellow, right, Marines? And then how do you kind of apply those lessons into the business space where it's like you have the bad news, oh, this deal isn't going to close, oh, this funding round isn't going to close, oh, this feature isn't working, we're going to miss this deadline, whatever. Like, I guess, how do you translate those lessons into the business world?
Yeah, damn, that's a good question. I feel like I should be paying you for reflections of stuff, right? Like this is
I will send you my account number and routing number after this. Yeah, I'll just drop in the chat right now.
I'll Venmo you my 10 paces I got going on in there. The first time around, I think, so in the Marine Corps, and I think somebody came out with a book that had a similar thought of we have this thing called the OODA loop. You orient yourself, you observe, you decide, you act. And then I think somebody came up with a book, it's learn, build, measure. So the whole point of it is iterative. Yeah. So the first time through, I probably was a lot more stressed because that was new to me, but the stressors weren't as bad. So I think I was able to at least acknowledge what was happening, decide on what I was supposed to do next and take that action. And that allowed me to iterate faster and faster and faster, I think, than the average person, because I'd step back, and I still do it. Like you were saying earlier, is I go, well, no one is shooting at me. I haven't just seen a mass grave. I haven't all these things, I haven't just seen my friends get blown up. All these things go in my head very quickly. And then I go, I'm still at home. I'm still sleeping in my bed. Everyone else is okay too. All right, next step. So I still find myself kind of, charging forward and probably scaring the shit out of people sometimes, honestly. Yeah. But at the same time, it helps me take things and move forward faster and think of 10 different solutions to try. And that's, I think, a good thing to have. I think that's scary for people. It also, in this second iteration, I think is also just allowed me just to be the leader I think I am, because the first time around it was well, I need to be the leader that people want me to be, which is, I think, a hard thing that to people don't understand that, but you do. You want to be what people expect of you, and that's tough. So I think all those things inform just me being able the second time around of just being open. The word is collaborative, but I'm just honest. I'm I'm going to tell you, here's what I'm going to do for you. I know you're taking a risk, and if I fail, then I'm going to fix it. And just being honest. I think people appreciate that piece of it. But, the other part is I don't stress out as much as I could or should or would, because it's one of those things is no matter what, we're still going home. We're still with our families. And even with my team, hey, are you okay? Are you alive? Okay, check and check. Well, let's move forward. And those, I think, are hard things to do when you're in the situation. of trying to figure out where the funding is coming from, who's the next customer, who's, what can your team provide? But it does make it fun. I mean, like, no one does this because they don't like to be stressed or they don't like a challenge, honestly. So I don't know if that answers it in not a succinct way, but that's, kind of my thoughts.
No, that was awesome. And I appreciate that. And I can't remember if I may have told you this, both of my grandfathers are Marines. They're both still living. One is 87.
Holy crap.
And one is 90. And a couple of years ago, I went to Parris Island with them. And it was so special because one of them went through Parris Island in 53, the other went through in 54. And they each had photos of their time there. And it was so cool to go around, and I know that you're a Hollywood Marine, but it was so cool.
It's not. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was so cool to go around Parris Island and recreate these photos and to hear them talk about it because, candidly, that's majority of what either of them have spoken about is like the nostalgia of that day, as opposed to some of the stuff that they saw, some of the stuff that you mentioned, and so I appreciate you being open to sharing that because I know it's not easy. So I thought that was.
That's a super cool one because they probably have a lot more cooler stories than my husband was an infantryman. Most of my friends were infantrymen, and every Marine as an infantryman is like always embedded in me. And that's the kind of the same thing with running a business, is that I've got to be able to get in there and be dirty and do the stuff. But like, I think I find for some people in the military, maybe particular Marines, you kind of have this on and off switch, and you either just don't acknowledge it and you're like, that's just what I did, move forward with life. Cause that's how you get through. Like when my husband and I came back from Iraq, the best advice we got, and this was back when, I think it's getting better. Like I can't even imagine what your grandparents went through, because it's like, you just came back and then you just kept living life. Yeah. You just there's no PTSD, didn't acknowledge it, you just kept moving forward. And that's not always good, obviously, for many different reasons, but that is a way that some of us kind of just get through, and it rears its head at different times. But if there's an on and off switch, I always think of like later on, like you should record your grandparents. Like our son asks us all the time. We're like, we were in the desert. I got a facial. It was good times. Yeah. Stuff like that. Cause it's just easier. But I think later in life, I think that's it'd be cool to hear some of those stories. Like we just met a Marine here, World War II, which was still crazy to hear. Like this guy.
World War II.
Oh, wait, no, I'm lying. I'm lying to you. Sorry. Korean. Like, dude, that's too old. Yeah. It was Korean War. And he met my husband was like, dude, he met a famous Marine. I was like, holy shit, we got to go down and like record this guy. But it's the same thing, is like I would love to record my stories for my family so they would know later on. You should totally do that, because it's a weird thing for Marines. We don't talk a lot about stuff sometimes.
It's funny that you mentioned that. My brother and I, last Christmas, sat down and wrote out a list of questions. And then we're talking to all of our grandparents and we're recording the conversations. So it's literally everything. And by the way, the first session with Papa, my mom's dad, the first session with Papa went for 3.5 hours and got through a third of the questions. And it's everything from what, where, you start with the simple stuff, right? Like when and where were you born? What were your parents' names? What do you know about them and their careers and their personalities? What about your grandparents? What do you remember about them, right? And so we hear everything from, all my dad's family immigrated in the 1700s, but everybody else came over in the early 1900s. So we're hearing immigration stories. We're hearing what it was like to learn a language and a culture and to be, to have nothing during the Depression. And it's beautiful and amazing. And it makes me realize I was born in 1988. I'm so soft and spoiled. And it's funny, no matter how you slice and dice the generations, I am squarely in the millennial set.
You're millennial. Yeah, man.
And what's funny right now, you get to the point in life where, right, when you're growing up, age is everything, because you get to turn 16 and drive, and then you get to turn 18 and, whatever 18-year-olds get to do. And
I think it's both. I think that's it, right? Both.
Once you have kids, like your age means nothing because all your friends are the parents of people who have kids your kids' age, right?
Yeah, you don't have a name anymore, right? You're so-and-so's dad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm Rosie's dad, right? Like it was so funny. I was out, what was I doing in the front lawn? Like pulling weeds or something, I don't know. And I heard some kid from the street go, "Oh, Daddy, there's Rosie's house." And I was like, "Rosie's," and then I was like, "Oh, this is
that house, right? It's pretty cool.
But anyway, it was just, it's funny. I have friends right now, like born in like 80, 81, 82, because we have kids the same age. And they adamantly swear that they are not millennials.
What do they do? What, do they want to be? They can't be Gen Xers. They won't accept it.
Yeah, they say that they are, but I'm like, I don't know. Most demographers would put you as a millennial. And
but there's some people that are like you've said this before, and I believe it. Like you've got an old soul, and like for me, I feel like I'm a Gen Xer squarely, but I'm like also I have the millennial tendencies of just playing with stuff and being okay online, and I think that's why I like what I do too. Is that like it's always changing and iterating, and it kind of makes, I don't know, whatever your soul is, your background, or like you're saying, experience, it makes you, I don't know, stronger, but more willing to do stuff. I mean, dude, you came from transportation, and you're like, hey, I'm going to join this e-discovery group and learn what this business is about. But I think it brings a different perspective that's needed. And that's, I learned that the first time around where I was like, man, this industry is a little different coming, from a techie world to the Marine Corps world where everyone collaborates and shares. And it's a little bit more, it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? And the close off, it's hard. It's kind of hard to get in the crew and the industry. And that's, something I think that the pandemic and people reaching out and people from other industries coming in have kind of helped it, that like, hey, it's okay to actually talk to people from different discovery or tech groups. You learn a lot, and no one's trying to, I think for the most part, like, steal the trade secret, but you learn a lot more when you're open in that regards and kind of increase that network that's there. I mean, that's the theory behind a book I read once, or maybe it was a motivational poster. I don't know.
So, I saw a graph recently that I'll probably do a bad job of orally representing, but it kind of had concentric circles where it talked about like domain expertise, right? Like
fact check you right now.
Yeah, go for it. You Google me. Not me. In fact, I don't know if I Googled myself since like an undergraduate project. So
I'm going to do that.
So anyway, these concentric circles, it was, that's the gin slurring my speech there. That's something to.
Did you put more tonic versus gin though? So
I mean, I was pretty half and half, and I got these rocks in here from the office fridge. That's pretty cool. Or freezer.
That's why I thought you were at home, because like those are the rocks that I have in like our bar at home. That's like pretty fancy office, man.
Yeah, look, pinky out.
Pinky out.
Classy, yeah. So one circle is domain expertise, right? Like, hey, I went to law school in the early to mid 2000s, and I watched discovery transition to e-discovery, and I know 3 or 4 review platforms really well, and I know the case law really well. It's like, okay, that's the domain expertise. Yeah. And then the other circle was something to the degree of like applicable skill sets, right? So that's like, okay, you have this domain expertise. How do you commercialize it, right? It's like, okay, so you need, digital marketing to let people know about you. You need PR and relationship building to get the word out. You need operations, not from a legal defensible, like forensic defensibility binder perspective, but like
running a business type operation.
Yeah, you need the operations and like making sure that each client has the same experience. Even if the unique needs of the case are different, right? They're going to have the same feel of your brand and who you guys are and how you work and all this stuff. And then it talked about, where those overlap, like that is where like, exponential growth takes place, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you're too far to one edge of that circle or the other, you've got a lot of expertise but no way to commercialize it, or you may know a lot about commercialization but you have no expertise that people care about. Yeah. But it's like where those two intersect, that's magic.
Yeah.
So we could go down a lot of different paths, but you and I could set a record for like the first 5-hour episode of the show. So instead, I will move to wrap up, and And I'll do that.
Don't do it. Don't do it to the people. They're like, no.
Yeah, I know. They want more. They want more. Maybe we'll do like maybe we'll start like a member site, and it's like, if you want to hear the rest of the conversation, log in at eDiscovery After Hours, you know.
That voice. That's the worst.
Yeah. Oh, it's awful. I don't like gated content, by the way.
No, I think
we haven't
that
talked about that.
Yeah, well, what you said into that gated content point, I think that's the reason where, like, I like what I do, and I like this, like, I still, accept the challenge of trying to do things in this industry, because I think the best content is out there, is that honest content, and that's, why you probably started this podcast, right?
Can I stop? I want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not mansplaining. I'm trying to tee something up for you here. All right. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Cool. So usually to conclude the shows, it's like, listen, we're all sick of hearing podcasts about case law and your legal tech feature, right? It's like, okay, that's nice. But we all miss being able to just like talk at the bar afterwards.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I usually ask people like, hey, thank you for coming on, and it's been awesome to get to know you. But to be clear, like, there probably is something industry specific that's like rolling around in your head that you care about, or that you're frustrated by, or you're excited by. And I usually ask the guest, like, hey, pontificate for me, I'm not going to do that for you. Instead, I'm going to ask specifically, we led off the show by saying, you're not an attorney. You haven't worked in an e-discovery provider in the services or software side. And full disclosure, right? Proteus Discovery Group is, we partner with On-Call Discovery. So I would love to hear you talk a little bit about On-Call Discovery, what it is that you guys are trying to do, what's the problem that you're trying to solve, right? I mean, to the degree that you can wax poetic about it in 2 or 3 minutes as opposed to 20 or 30.
I can't do it. You know me. I'm like I don't have that 2-minute sales pitch. I'm like, in my head, I'm trying to solve 20 million problems and trying to do cool stuff. So I'll try pontification.
Yeah.
Man.
And by the way, I put you on the spot. You didn't know that this was coming. So.
Oh, I'm nervous. But this is like what they teach you, like and this is the kind of the part we're talking about is, here's the box that you need to be in every time. I can't live in that box, man. I just can't. So I think that's why we started the company, the On-Call Discovery, right? Is like, I still want to do something that's different, but not something so different. Like, what's the word? Like, when we started trying to get disruption. Are you trying to disrupt?
Disintermediation. That's the new one. I
can't.
It's probably like disintermediation is probably almost 10 years old, but a lot of people still don't know what that means.
It's just too long to say. I feel like, for most humans, you have to be short, sweet, honest. But that's what we hear, are you trying to disrupt? Like, no, man, look, here's the deal. Like, we know that it's hard for firms and paralegals to get in contact with discovery people. That's the base problem.
Can I stop you? Why?
No.
Why it's my show. I'll do whatever I want.
You want.
Why is it hard? Because, devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
Especially in the last year, there's been a lot of digital content. There's been a lot of PE, a lot of M&A. It seems like now more than ever, it would be easy. And there's, so to talk, when you say it's hard for law firms and paralegals and litigators to find discovery support, what do you mean? What have you heard that they're doing, right?
I think what you just said is actually making it harder. And these are so we spent 2 years before we even laid a line of code for this new platform, talking to paralegals and lawyers. We talked there first, because I already knew from the discovery world what they wanted, what they needed. And most of it's marketing speak, and it's hard to get away from it, right? We're disruptors. We are innovators. I'm like, okay, if you're an innovation, how many patents do you have? I mean, it's the way that we do things. We're innovative. I'm like, okay, well, it's the people, which is totally fine. Like if that's your world and you're comfortable, do it. But like, for the most part, like, it's hard for those guys because there's so much out there now. It's like there is this switch that happened between even a couple years before the pandemic, when people were really figuring out digital content. There's so much of it out there, and I just had somebody call me from the West Coast. They're like, hey, we get calls all of the time. I need 3 people that do this thing. Can you find them for me? Yeah, sure. I'll go look. And it was on, so that's kind of where they're at, is there's so much going on. And with all the mergers and acquisitions. They don't know who's who anymore, or maybe they lost somebody. So it is, I think it's becoming tougher because there's just so much noise and it all sounds the same. So that was kind of our goal, is like, okay, how can we provide a base layer? So if I'm somebody looking, I know 3 things that I still need: location, a service, and potentially the person. So like, if somebody talked about Proteus, let me look these guys up, without going to their website, getting a pixel on there that's going to follow me with a cookie and, blast me with 10 emails. I know you guys don't do that.
I wish I had the budget to do that, but even if I didn't, I wouldn't do that.
And that's the other half I guess you should talk about. But like that is the heartache, And so we're just trying to make the beginning process easier as they're looking for things, or as, a lot of times we get I didn't expect this, but we'll get a call from somebody and they can look on our platform and just go look in their area, but they don't even have the time to do that. And they'll just call us and say, like I said, find me this person in this area because I'm in New York and I have a case in Utah, or I have a case in California. So I think that's what's hard. And I think that's the pain point, is there's just so much out there. It's hard to slice through it all and pick the thing that's going to be right for the case now. And that the clock starts ticking. The clock is ticking, man. And on the other side, right, is like the other pain point and why to build something like this is not everyone has a $10 million budget or a round of, $1 billion that just happened for funding to hire 50 marketing people, 30 BA, it's a lot. So how do you get the people who do a really good job, whether they've been doing it for 5 years or 20 years? I talked to this guy in California, like he's been doing this. I mean, it's the kind of boxes, right? He's been at it for that long, but he's like losing the opportunity to talk to people. And that's the thing that he misses most, is like, which is crazy, right? Like they just miss talking to people. I just can't get in because everyone's blasting them. So that's kind of like why I think the pain exists on both sides. What we're trying to not disrupt, I think, but make it easier. And then just kind of being brutally honest and saying, look, I get it. If you want to pay $3,000 for a coffee lanyard, and I use that example a lot because everyone goes, oh yeah, I've done that. And maybe it works for you. Maybe it works the first time, the 20th time, but put a little bit at a time, be targeted and be truthful and know who you're after, I guess. Like just trying the little things and iterating on them and continue to make it better to get to that end result, I think works better than just blasting a bunch of money. If you have a bunch of money and you want to give it to me, I'm not going to say no.
You got to call Jeff back. Hey, Bezos, remember me?
Hey, Jeff. So I have this idea. So I'm really I think the word people say is passionate, but I'm just really, I really believe in what we're trying to do. I believe there's a point to make a difference, but I also believe in just being open about it and that it's, not something crazy. I mean, what do? We list companies, we vet companies to make sure that they're real. We try to get them reviews because that's what everyone is looking for. Like the last stat I pulled up is still people on B2B. 85% are more likely to actually engage with somebody when they have reviews. So these are things I think that people fight in the industry like they did 7 years ago when I first came in, and they're like, what's the social media, right? Okay, let's just get into the now. Everyone's embraced it. So just, use what works and then establish that and then iterate on something to be different later on. I can't tell you what we're going to do later on. I will tell you after this meeting. Because then I can't give away the secret sauce.
I'm realizing now, before our next monthly check-in, I probably need to get some reviews in the Proteus profile. Oopsie.
But it's super hard though, right?
If you're listening to the show and you're a Proteus client, go to On-Call.
Leave the review, oncalldiscovery.com, Proteus.
We need an echo, oncall.com.
Well, your eDiscovery After Hours logo is kind of 80s, kind of neon light. Yeah. You should have kind of that right? And you get the keytar.
The synthesizer, the keytar. Oh, that's true. So I haven't, as we record this, you're literally, do you watch Parks and Rec? You are literally the last episode I record, and then I'm actually heading up to Chicago to visit my in-laws And up there, I've got a buddy who's been in digital marketing for 15 years, and he's going to be the one who's like editing and splicing and dicing all this stuff.
Oh, sweet.
And like building the stuff for me. And so he is supposed to come up with an intro. So maybe by the time people hear this, there's going to be like a cool like 80s synth pop.
That's what I go for. All the kids are doing it now. That's what I hear.
I mean, I don't really know how to.
The 80s have come back. This is how old we are now, too.
Like the 90s, you're wrong. Some of the 90s are back. It's like acid washed jeans.
No, won't do it.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's a true story.
No.
Listen, we probably should wrap because.
Oh, crap. Sorry.
No, not at all. It's my
I did warn you at the beginning of this, right? Like even before you're like, hey, do you want to do this? I'm like, yes, I will. I'm going to take more time. But also like people are going to be like, we need more. I mean, these guys are great, right?
They're totally going to be like that until we see the stats later where it's like at the 20-minute mark, everybody was like, and I'm done. But we had a great time. I know. That's it, right? Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. As always, this was awesome, and you are a treasure.
Oh, I can't say anything else other than thanks, man.